and the goal is to bring you your next favorite band.
Thanks for having us. This is a very cool show.
Yeah, so through many iterations, and we finally landed on the weirdest one by far.
Yeah, simple feelings, and boom, you got a sound.
I remember this one time. I had been writing some songs, and I went out. I'm just going right in on this story. I went out, and so I was.
The story's longer than the song itself. We'll go ahead and play it.
And listen, it's going to be everybody's favorite band. Welcome to your next favorite band. That's both the show title and our promise to you. We here at Stereophilia Studio are tireless in our pursuit of finding incredible, genre-defiant artists who are either a hot up-and-coming band or a group that has been delivering for years but have flown under the radar. Tonight, live from the Bethlehem House Gallery, we learn all about Steel City Vintage with Matthew Paco Calleri. Each month, we will bring you live streams, audio podcasts, and perhaps even a live concert where you can listen to the stories and hear the music of artists personally curated by us based on what we feel will be worthy of your time. Be sure to subscribe and tune in to each episode because the possibilities are endless and you never know who will be your next favorite band. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Philip Reese.
Good evening. I am your co-host, David Moore.
And this is
Your next favorite band.
And your next favorite gallery?
Your next favorite music instrument vintage repair slash artist slash
rock and roll artist slash
I don't know, something else.
A lot of other great things, and we're going to learn all about it. As you can see, different setup here tonight. We are here at the Bethlehem House Gallery, and we are going to be talking with two great guests. One being Ward Van Haute.
Yep.
Director and curator. Did I get that right?
You did, yes.
And then we're also going to be focused on Matthew Paco Calleri and his various art, the beautiful art that he creates, and the other things that Steel City Vintage presents. But very excited. This is a cool one, David.
Yeah, it's sort of a like club sandwich of an episode because we've got the gallery and we have the Steel City Vintage stuff. So it's and the two go together, thus the club sandwich.
Yes, and also Ward and Paco go together because they've known each other for so long that this is just going to be fun to listen to them.
Yep. Yeah, they've known each other much longer than you and I have, and we've known each other a fair amount of time.
Correct, and we're all knuckleheads. So.
Oh yeah, well, this is like knucklehead squared.
Yeah, this is good. Cubed or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, we did want to do what we usually do, which is to kind of bring on some video. And for those of you who don't know the Bethlehem House Gallery, we'll play a little bit here of a video of they took a time lapse of how they changed things over. Ward's going to explain this a little bit, that there's kind of seasonal kind of art that gets put up. So it's going to be different every time you come in for the most part. So this kind of gives you a little flavor for that. David will do some bio, and then we'll chat with Ward to learn some more.
Bethlehem House Gallery specializes in both emerging and established regional artists and provides original, innovative art in a variety of contemporary styles for a range of household budgets. Their 4 annual shows demonstrate the practical use of contemporary artwork in modern interior design by exhibiting works in a furnished environment. The team at Bethlehem House believes that anyone can be an art collector and that all homes can be enriched by original fine art.
How about that?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And you may have. You probably wrote that.
Those are my words.
So as this wraps up here...
Byline, Ward Van Haute.
As this wraps up here, tell us a little bit more about this, because like we said there are 4 shows throughout the year.
There are.
And this is one of the kind of changeovers.
Yeah, so this was actually early 2020. This video is the show that we had to close early due to the pandemic lockdown. So this was the home show. It was our last juried show that we did in the gallery. Typically, we do seasonal shows. We have a winter show, a spring show, a summer show, and a holiday show. And this current show that we're sitting in right now is the winter show.
Got it.
And it has been open for a few weeks, and it will run until March 11th. So just a couple weeks away, and then we'll. What we do is we close the doors for a few weeks and we completely redecorate the space from top to bottom.
Awesome.
The featured artists, the artists featured on the walls and some of the sculptural work will all, whatever did not sell will get returned to the artist, and we'll bring in a new group of featured artists with new paintings, sculptures. We have a pretty wide range of techniques and styles and mediums with the artists that we work with. And they're all, typically 90% of them are regional, local artists from Lehigh County or Northampton County.
Yeah, or nearby.
How many, I was going to ask, how many artists are typically part of each show?
So typically it's between 6 and 8 featured artists, but I also have what we call house artists, which I'm a house artist. Paco's a house artist, and there are a number of other house artists who are in every show year round. It's typically more functional art or decorative art, and some of the practical stuff like the furniture, the vessels, the glass vases and bowls and things are and stained glass pieces are pieces that we keep in year round, and those are the house artists. So 6 to 8 artists will change per show. The room decor changes completely every time we change exhibits.
Sure.
We paint the walls, we move in new furniture, move out old furniture. Everything is for sale. It's all furniture that I've collected for buy and resale and to decorate the space.
And I think that's the cool part. So it's called Bethlehem House Gallery for that reason, that you're going to walk through rooms that are furnished, and the art isn't always just what you see on the walls. It could be, like you said, it could be the chair, it could be the vase, whatever. And that's what I think is very, very cool about this, because it's going to show you what that would look like in real life. And I think that would probably help people kind of envision, where they might be able to put that.
I mean, that fundamentally is our goal and has been our goal since we opened a little over 8 years ago. When my wife, Rebecca, and I were looking at starting the new business, first of all, starting a new business is an amazing thing. It requires a lot of help and care from people around you.
Absolutely.
And just a humble thank you to everybody over the years that helped us get this started, particularly the family members that helped us with this. And my wife, who doesn't work here, never has, but has been, she's been a force behind this from the very beginning. And the concept of art in the home was a concept that originated with Rebecca. And it was such a brilliant concept. I had worked in theater and television in sets and props for my entire adult career at that point, which is about 15 years in entertainment, doing sets and props. I mostly worked in commercials. I was decorating living room spaces every week for 8 years straight.
And then redecorating and redecorating and redecorating.
And I told you, we changed, like the video was us changing an exhibit. So we were closed for a few weeks and we changed the exhibit all within that short period of time. When I was doing commercials, I'd do that in a day. We'd come in at 5 a.m. and load everything out, put it in a truck and come back in with new stuff, dress the set, camera department comes, lighting comes, they light it, we shoot the thing, and then I strike the whole thing all in a day. So this is actually pretty comfortable. But yeah, so Rebecca, not an artist, an art appreciator, absolutely. A supporter of one artist very close to her. And what she had said to me was that she found the white wall galleries, the sort of where they're all the artworks hung in a row across the gallery, that she found it intimidating. She felt that sometimes there was just something that she was supposed to get that she didn't get. And I explained to her that, like, the art will speak to you however the art speaks to you, and they want that white wall so that there's no distractions. But what I ultimately want with my art is for it to be in somebody's home.
Mm-hmm.
So when I create a piece, I'm not thinking it's going to be in a museum someday. I'm hoping it hangs above somebody's fireplace or in their kitchen, or I want the work I create to be enjoyed by people every day. So that's Bethlehem House Gallery.
Yeah,
we are a house. We demonstrate how you can exhibit art in a modern contemporary home, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the opposite side of intimidation would be accessibility, and I think that's kind of what happens here. So I wanted to take a moment to kind of share that with people who maybe know where they walk past the entrance and feel intimidated by an art gallery, and they shouldn't. They should feel the door is open for a reason. At least the weather's nice enough to walk in and to walk around. And to me, it has that like Barnes Foundation Frick Museum type thing where it's set in rooms.
Well, thanks. That's a very nice compliment.
I would hope so. And I did, but the difference here is you can walk out with these pieces. Yeah. So everything is clearly labeled.
I mean, I'm sure there's other ones would if you had enough money.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
Or if you're fast enough, you can walk out with
there's that too.
Yeah. But the fact that it's set, and I'm sure again, you're painting the walls differently, so you're picking the color to go with the picture, the art that's about to go on those walls. So same kind of concepts happening there.
Yeah. I want everything that I bring into the exhibit design to enhance the art viewing experience.
Sure.
I never want it to distract.
Yeah.
So,
right.
So the colors, I pull the colors from the artwork. I design the furniture with the overall feeling of the artwork.
Yep.
I keep that in mind when I'm doing the whole design.
So you mentioned the pandemic, which clearly wouldn't impact an art gallery all that much. And the fact that you design these spaces. So there's this cool video I saw on your YouTube channel that I thought would be worth sharing here that I thought you could explain. Basically, you took to the open spaces to design an interior, which I think was pretty awesome. So this was early pandemic and you just saying, well, got to create somehow. So check out this video and then Ward can kind of just chat about it.
Yeah, so when we had to lock down and close the gallery for something like 6 weeks, I think it was, this is what I do for a living. This is how I, and I'm good at it and I enjoy it. And I was sort of stuck in my house like everybody else was. So one day I just put the camera on and decorated my backyard.
Yeah, for those of you listening on the podcast, it's basically just a beautiful, verdant green lawn and trees in the background. And he's proceeded to put down a throw rug, like an oriental rug, in an entire living room set. Bookcases, somehow hung paintings on the fake wall, and started reading a book. So,
so it was a fun project.
I don't see what's so unusual about that. My backyard looks just like that. What do you mean?
Yeah. And I thought it was just cool too, like just the gorgeous day that you obviously were picking the right one. And
I lucked out. And the kids were all at the kitchen table doing their homework, and my wife was our new IT specialist in the house. I just needed to avoid that.
So Dad was outside moving furniture.
Yeah.
And I did it all myself. It was all just a hand truck and taking my time to make sure that I wasn't hurting myself.
So in speaking of accessibility, we should spend at least a moment too, for those of people who don't know where the gallery is. Mm-hmm. We're on Main Street in Bethlehem, north side. Yeah. Most people know where Hotel Bethlehem is. You're a couple doors down from Hotel Bethlehem.
On the same side of the street, and across from Johnny's Bagels is the other.
Yeah, a lot of people would know that one too. Yeah.
The other landmark that I use.
Yeah, but no one should feel that they can't walk in and take a walk around. Right?
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. And what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 rooms.
Yeah, there's 5 rooms and a lobby area.
And a lobby.
And they all continue all the way through. One room is connected to the next, and I have a wonderful staff here that are happy to answer any questions you have about the art, or just let you go and walk. And we want people to feel welcome and at home. And if that means that, strike up a conversation, great. If that means you just want to be left alone and look at what you're looking at, that's great too.
Sure.
So, and again, everything is for sale, and we are a commercial gallery, and it's how we pay our bills and support the local artists in the area. So,
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Ward.
Certainly, yeah. Thank you guys.
One of the other things that I always appreciate is in each room there are these great bios on the walls of the artists. So that's a great transition here, because we have some of the art of Paco's behind us here, this mirror over here, and this Bethlehem star here. These are all his pieces.
Let's not forget the guitars.
The guitars, yes, that's what
that's the important part.
So he designs these absolutely stunning guitar stands that come with the guitar, which is also another work of art that's part of this as well. And your bio is right there. So what I'm going to do is play this other. So now on your Steel City Vintage YouTube channel, there was this project of how you're building some of these Bethlehem stars, and there's lots of cool stories there. But we're going to bring this up here, so you can watch some of this, and then David will do a bio, and then we'll chat with Paco. And the audio here is mostly just either you're chatting or what, but it's a very cool, yet again, another time lapse of how these different pieces are made.
Yeah. Now, and if you're paying attention there, you'll see my left hand has got that
in a brace,
and that's a story we can get into.
We will
later.
definitely get into
that one later.
But yeah, David, hit it.
Matthew Paco Calleri combines his love of collecting and restoring vintage musical gear with his 25 years of experience in lighting and scenic design. Cracked cymbals, random drum shells, even old motorcycle engines are transformed into furnishings and decor. In 2013, Paco started Steel City Vintage. Services include amp repairs, backline rentals, repair and sales of vintage guitars, organs, and gear.
And there you have it.
There you go.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Matthew Paco Calleri. And so what I'm going to do is actually do something like this, so that we can both talk while that still kind of plays. Anything you want to share about this particular project that you're working on here?
Boy, what were we making on this? This is one of these, maybe one of our stars over here, like you see in the window, I believe, the Star of Bethlehem. It's a neat little piece. They seem to be very popular because everybody loves to take home a piece of Bethlehem.
Yep.
It's stained glass. It's pretty cool, especially when the light comes through, depending on where you're hanging it there. And, be a nice little memento of the city.
Right.
And then, this is the, I'm sorry.
It's the mirror.
This is the mirror. Yeah.
I do have that.
This is one of the larger mirrors. Is a freestanding mirror. It was the center mirror itself was approximately 18 inches by 4 feet, and then there's this border that you see that I'm cutting here.
Right. Is it anything similar to like what's over my head there? Or different?
No.
Totally different.
Was just like the jelly bean back there. It had a copper frame.
Mm-hmm.
I built 3 of them now so far, and they've all been here at the gallery. And
sure,
every single one of them has been built for our bedroom. And the wife says, "This one's beautiful. I love it." And I say, "All right, well, Ward's got a little hole. We'll just put it in the gallery for our next show. It fills a space, and then somehow it ends up not coming home." So then she says, "Well, I guess you're gonna have to make another one," and then so the process repeats itself.
Keeps repeating.
Yeah,
it keeps it fresh.
But these mirrors. The biggest things we have a Bethlehem house here on actually it's Fountain Hill now, not in Bethlehem technically, but it's your standard built in the late 1800s type of Bethlehem, Lehigh Valley brick home,
Mm-hmm.
Smaller bedroom, and there was always a dead corner. So these mirrors were built with that in mind. They have a triangular base, so it slips into a corner nice and easy, or it can be freestanding anywhere as well. I try to make a lot of my art functional. And practical as well as pretty.
Mm-hmm. And we, I can end this now. We walked through, my wife and I, and we loved the guitar stands. That was what kind of led us to even reach out to you.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just these, again, like it's glass, metal, and rock and roll, I guess, is the best way to kind of describe it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to be boring, especially if you've got a nice guitar. And then, like a couple of them back here, we build. We can build them to match. If you have a guitar,
sure,
or just a specific color scheme that you have in mind.
Yep.
We can custom tailor. We built many custom guitars. I've had several clients that send me photographs, or they bring the guitar themselves and say,
sure,
this is what I have. I want something special or something different
to display it.
I had a client that he lived in Bethlehem. He's from Bethlehem, lived in Bethlehem his entire life, just minutes away from the Martin Guitar Factory, was able to then, eventually work his way up and he was able to save enough money to buy that perfect, most beautiful custom Martin. Picked it up. He said, "I'm from Bethlehem. I've got a Martin. I need a stand for this thing." And so the very first stained glass guitar stands that we built. Because most of them were like this one in the background, metal background, the grading and all the copper. I love using copper because it's very organic. But our first, I did a special run of just 5. We call them the SOB. For the Star of Bethlehem, Star of
I don't know where
all I thought of. I don't know what else would have been.
And it was pretty neat. Stained glass backing panel, and then your standard Moravian star. I did it in copper and brass, bent pieces, and then soldered that all together, and then soldered it. And we did 5 of them, only doing 5, limited edition run. And he kind of said, "Well, I really wish I could have got one before they were all sold out." So we changed it, modified, made him specifically one specific to match the color of the guitar.
Sure.
And just like this mirror back here, this was had a client that sent us a photo of a living room and said, we want a mirror. We're not sure exactly as vertical, horizontal, which way do you want it? We're not quite sure.
Right.
I made a couple of them and let them pick. So that's the one that they didn't end up with.
Sure.
So they went horizontal.
It's here. It's pretty cool. It's for sale. You can pick it up pretty cheap.
That's exactly right. Actually, if you want to hand me that box, this also speaks to that whole kind of initiative, and it's the Bethlehem Star piece. So these were actually ones that we asked you to do. And so I can show this. I think I'm not going to get close enough, but it's basically very similar to that, but with a border and this beautiful like color scheme and stuff. And then Ward, you played a role in figuring out how to get so if you guys want to talk about this piece, I think that's a very cool one. And then these are available, again, same thing, kind of like custom-ish, where on your site they can order them in a color that they like.
Correct. And then as just like anything else, most of these are also available here in the Bethlehem House Gallery.
Except not right now because
someone
came in and bought the whole lot of them.
Don't worry, they will be restocked as of Wednesday. So
there you go.
Okay. But the gallery opens back up again on Wednesday for the week, and so there'll be plenty of.
Well, there you go.
And then people won't wait to buy them because they know that somebody can come buy them all out
and take them all out. Yeah.
But no, this was a very nice. This was a pretty cool project that I'm very, very grateful for.
Sure.
Choose us, and Ward and I, we've known each other since college.
Yeah,
and
like 1997.
Nice.
Yeah, many moons ago.
Like 25 years.
And we've always talked about we should really get together and collaborate and make something, do a creative piece, the two of us, and we'll get it out there. And it was always I'm kind of busy right now, but he's not, or vice versa. Right. And then we couldn't really kind of figure out, kick some things around, and then it worked out.
Yeah.
To shrink something like that down to something that size, a little roughly larger than a cigarette pack or so.
Well, first,
go ahead.
When I opened the gallery a little over 8 years ago, it was we were scheduled to open 2 weeks before Music Fest that year. So Music Fest 2014, I believe. Yeah. And
did you think that was a good thing or a dangerous thing?
Oh, I think it was something that was necessary.
God, I knew some businesses close for the week and run for the hills.
It doesn't make any sense to me because there's literally millions of people that come into town that you get fresh eyes. So
and they set up right outside.
Right outside. So new business on Main Street, I knew I wanted to be open for Music Fest that year. I knew even if we didn't sell a lot, we would get
your name out there.
Get the name out there really well, really fast. At the time, Paco was working Music Fest.
Certainly.
So he was here all the time on Main Street doing that. And I wanted to capitalize on that music crowd. So this room that we're sitting in actually was, I had an artist that did rock star portraits and
fun.
Decorated that. And Paco and I got to talking over a beer or 3. Usually where all our good ideas come from.
Yeah. Great ideas come off of great bar napkins, really.
Right. Exactly. And hopefully your handwriting is good enough so that when you go to review it, you're like, it's something with pigeons. That's all I've
got. So I was telling him what I wanted to do. I want to have this music room in the front. And he's like, I can give you guitars. Like, what better than having guitar necks popping up in the window to get this Music Fest crowd to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it worked. I mean, you brought in a ton of guitars.
I think we had, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 guitars just lined up here and there.
And there was some hanging on the wall. Yeah, you had a keyboard.
Fender Rhodes and an old Farfisa transistorized organ. Like a lot of, the old vintage kind of cool stuff that was just popping around here. Yeah. I believe at first a couple people thought this was a music store and not an art gallery.
And I kept having to call him. Like, he was just loaning these things to me.
Right.
And I kept having to call him that first few weeks and be like, hey, what do you want for this guitar? He's like, it's not for sale. So what do you want for this guitar? It's not for sale. Every day.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of gear out that was being rented for some of the free stages at Music Fest, and everything in here was all my personal collection. And I mean, there were a couple that I was like, well, I'll put a really, really stupid price on that because I don't want to sell it. And I think we may have actually had one or two people that were like, oh, well, take my money, please.
Yeah. Wow. And you're like this. Oh, okay.
I'll wipe my tears with $100 bills. That's right. That's my favorite saying. Especially whenever a nice piece sells here that I kind of am a little attached to. And the wife is always like, well, I know you really like that one. Like this
I keep selling all of Kelly's home decor.
Yeah. I built this guitar stand 4 different times already. And it was one that was supposed to be for one of my personal guitars. And each time it sells, and I make another one, and it sells, and I make another one.
I would think there's something to that regarding like the amount of care you put into it. Like, hey, this is for me. Yeah. Not that it's any better than you, but
I put the same amount of care.
Well, I don't. Yeah, that's not coming out the right way.
I know exactly what
you're saying. But I mean,
there's
I may have taken. There's an emotional investment.
A little extra time to make sure it was perfectly cut and everything was perfectly polished.
But I think the art comes through.
Yeah, so that was wildly successful. Having the guitars here, having Paco's gear, and people came in thinking it was a music store. It was awesome. We didn't have guitar stands back then though. Just had whatever the foldable.
Yeah, just your standard ultimate or Hercules stage type of guitar stands.
And then I guess
we were having lunch. Yeah, we were having lunch discussing I think this was back in maybe a March or April, several months before everything. And then we were discussing, we were having a liquid lunch. I mean, a productive lunch. And
probably both.
A little, always. And this was like, it would be really cool if I could find an artist that would be able to, I don't know, make something cool to put the guitars on, and we could kind of, highlight those around here. And hold my beer. Right. Let me think what we can come up with. And he said, well, all right, make me a prototype. Let me see what you got, and we'll go from there. And cranked out a couple prototypes here and there, and that's about how we started out making the guitar stands.
Keeps making them, keeps selling them, and then
since then it's just progressed. The design of the stand has changed several times over the course of the years now. Just to fine tune and hone in what looks good, what works good.
Sure.
Especially if you're putting several $1,000 guitar onto a stand, you want to make sure that it doesn't easily fall over.
Correct.
That's the big problem there.
So I guess that was the real first collaboration.
That was really, I guess, technically.
So you did all the work, but I was like, hey, make this thing.
I call that art direction, I believe.
Kind of like my kids.
Let's go back to director and curator.
So that was really cool. And we've sold many of them over the years and gradually started folding in your stained glass because I didn't know you made stained glass. And I'm a glass artist also. And I started off making stained glass, I think the same time you made stained, like you started in high school. I started in high school. And, but since I've opened my studio and then this gallery, I started working in fused glass.
Sure.
And that's where we come to this collaboration. Because,
in order to make a star that small,
right? It wouldn't it'll be hard to show on this particular one because it's basically white on clear.
Right. Yeah.
But there's a Bethlehem star fused on there.
So go to the website. You can see them
here. I'll bring it up right now.
You
while
can
we're
see them on the website much better. I believe there's still a couple left over.
So Paco called me up or texted. That's how we communicate.
So it looks like these.
Yeah.
And so you can see the different colors and in the design and what's available for you to purchase. And there's some zoom ins here. So you can see there, that's the fused star.
That's the fused part, yeah. So Paco called me up and was like, you free for a beer?
That's basically the one I was showing.
He's like, I got a possible commission for us to work on together, collaboration. And explaining, he said they want these small versions of the SOBs for
these were quite some
wedding favors, right?
Yes, it was for our wedding guests.
Yeah, and I thought that was a great idea, but of course, the stars would have to be so small that it would be all copper tape. You wouldn't see any of the glass whatsoever. Right. So that's where Paco came to me, and we put our heads together and came up with the solution.
Yeah.
And he was like, if you can fuse the star in the middle, then I can work around the rest of it.
Sure.
So I ended up cutting a stencil out of brass, hand cut brass stencil of the star, and then I use this powdered glass. It's ground to a fine powder.
Sure.
And sift it over and bake it at 1200 degrees. Bada bing, bada boom. We got a.
It's like Shrinky Dinks, but
but cooler,
more dangerous and cooler.
1200 degrees.
I'm presuming that's Fahrenheit, as working in Celsius here would just make it more fun. We're working at Kelvin. We're going all in.
So I guess this is the other one you were talking about. Like, you couldn't have made it at the scope and size like this. It would be just it's too intricate, and it was too small of a scale.
Yeah, correct.
But I mean, it still is amazing. Like, as far as the way it came out exactly the way we pictured. Like, you nailed it, and we appreciate that so much. And then we unfortunately can't get one of those in the shop. But the thing that's kind of over the main door with the 3 panels and the Bethlehem star in the middle, we ended up asking you to do one of those, so as our own personal remembrance of the wedding and the kind of the favors and stuff. And so that came out amazing too.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was nice to have that experience where, after all these years of being friends and bouncing creative ideas off of each other, to actually have our hands on the same project.
Totally.
It was a cool experience. Thanks for including me, brother.
That's how we do.
That's how we do. Anything else? So while we're on the site, before I stop sharing this, this is the Steel City Vintage site.
That is a site. That is correct.
Yep. And so there is a shop. So this is where, let me get into the art, and then we'll use this as a transition point to the other elements of what you do. We can buy some swag.
Always buy your swag.
You can buy some swag there.
Let them know you're with the crew.
That's right. And then, like, there are guitar stands that have multiple necks for.
Yep, that's a boat. We call it 3-space boat.
And then this is the other one of these is like behind us.
That's a slightly different one, but yep.
So this is the stand that we've been chatting about, where there are some here available for the purchase if you love it, including the guitar that's sitting in it, right? You can buy both pieces?
Usually, yeah.
Usually. No promises.
Depending on, but most 90% of the time,
right.
it's usually everything is for sale.
Or you can approach Paco and give him, like he shared, the details of what...
See, now that's one of my favorite photos.
Oh, sorry. We can get right back. This one here.
That right there, yeah.
Which is buy, sell, consign section, but that's a very cool picture.
Well, right. So
this must have been what the front window looked like during Music Fest.
This is pretty close.
I was going to say, this shifts us to the other half of what we're talking about. So we're talking about the art side of it, but this shifts us to your gear and backline work, which is for putting everyone on the same page. Can you take the word backline and define it in a way so that people understand what that means?
Certainly. So in the live, or actually in any part of the entertainment industry, recording as well, backline is the band gear. Your keyboards, your guitars, your amps, your drums, your in-ears that now a lot of guys are using on stage, your inner monitors and everything, things like that. So the company started out almost as a necessity for a separate company that I was working for in the Valley, a rather large company that deals with entertainment type of things. And they said, while I was working in a management type position for this company, whenever they would have an artist playing that would need something like an emergency, because I love gear, I love guitars and amps, and playing since I was in elementary school, and I just happened I would have they needed a Fender Twin for this artist,
right?
Oh well, let me just grab one real quick and we'll throw it in there. And they said, well, look, you can't, you got to charge us for using the gear, but you can't really give us an invoice in your own name. It needs to be in a company name. And at that time, my father was retiring, and so he said, well, I think we can work something out here. And he and I got together, and we opened up the company. We created Steel City Vintage LLC. Wanted to kind of take a nomenclature from the Lehigh Valley and deal with the strong history of the steel and that industrial type of thing, which is definitely kind of what we like to emulate in a lot of our art.
Okay.
And that 2013 we officially became an LLC, and then thus started the backline company. So we typically we'll rent to bands, we rent directly to venues, if you you have an amp and you have a gig this weekend and your amp dies, you can call us up. We probably have that amp somewhere in our warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
You can drop off your amp. We'll fix your amp, give you a loaner. You can take ours out to your gig, depending on what you did to it. If we're waiting on parts, because everybody, that seems to be the big issue nowadays, is waiting on them parts to come in.
Sure.
Certain things. So you can, in theory, we'll loan you while we're repairing yours if need be.
Yep.
Or if you a lot of artists around here don't. It's a lot financially easier for to say I'm going to be recording an album, but I really want a Fender Rhodes, and I really need a Hammond B3 with a Leslie, and I want that original sound because the new stuff, the Nords and all the newer stuff,
they're great for the portability. But when
exactly,
the studio, you take advantage of what you can do.
You want that sound and that feel, and we have all the new stuff in stock. You can rent a brand new Nord Stage 3 keyboard from us, or you can rent a 1963 Hammond B3 or a Fender Rhodes or a Wurlitzer, or you can rent some Gibson guitars or some Marshall amps. You just described
like Rick Wakeman's entire stack at that point in time.
Well, I kind of joke every once in a while, and I say that all of this gear is my 401k. Vintage gear in general, kind of just it never rarely do you ever see something depreciate when it comes to a vintage piece of equipment.
Right.
So it just happens to be that now I'm having my toys make money for me through the company.
Do you rent? I have two questions. So how much gear do you currently have? And I'm just more curious if off the top of your head, like we have X number of guitars, we have X number of keyboards.
Oh boy. If you mold everything together, the vintage and the newer stuff, keyboards, we've probably got 15 various, from Yamahas to Hammonds, of course, and Nords, obviously, and Korg, and all of the pretty much whatever's your standard rental stuff. We've got that. All of the Fender lines we've got multiple Marshalls. All of the JCM8, all of your rock and roll type of things that you're typically going to see on a stage at like Music Fest or at the State Theater or some of the other venues around here. We've been fortunate to have a couple bands that are touring that call us up and say, hey, here's a list. We're going out for the next 6 months and we need X, Y, and Z. We put together a package. Either we send out a tech with it, or they send somebody over. They have their own tech that comes over and picks it all up. And then 6 months later, it comes back mostly in one piece.
That's rock and roll, right? Mostly in one piece part of it.
That's definitely rock and roll. That's definitely.
So the other one is, so you've mentioned instruments and things like that. Do you also, and I'm curious because this is sort of the backline gets into the sort of vagaries of something like a PA system. Do you guys handle something like that?
We have smaller. I personally. So my main as you had mentioned, my main background started. I have a degree in lighting and scenic design, and because of that, now I am a professional stagehand. I am a union stagehand. There is a stagehand union here in the Lehigh Valley, Local 200, IATSE. It's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. Again, I've been a union. I've had my card now 20 some years, almost 25 or so years, and that it's that sort of thing that helps with my background getting into this. So I know, like I said, we have a smaller PA for like your club type of thing that we can set up, but I have contacts with many other larger audio companies in the area. So
if you were scaling up, that you would,
it's good to spread I like to spread the love out to my brothers and sisters as well.
PA rentals are one of those oddities that are sort of like, sometimes it's venue based. Sometimes it's that you bring your PA versus your instruments is a whole different ball of wax.
Every band is going to want a different type of rig, or it basically boils down to whoever their front of house audio engineer is. And that person can be really particular. Usually sometimes with larger bands, they often kind of work with your main FOH engineer may have a hookup with the D&B or a Vertex system, and he actually likes that because he knows somebody from the company pretty well. But a lot of that is subjective to personal preference. And because of that, because there are so many different types of just speaker cabinets by various companies, for us, it doesn't make sense to carry that stuff in stock when there are so many other companies around here that we can easily partner up with. And that's all. It's all about the cooperation and the crossover. There's only a few backline companies between Manhattan and Philadelphia, and we happen to be one of them. There are a couple that are larger. We kind of have more or less the exact same things that they do. Some of those guys may have a little bit more of the extra boutique-y type of things, but in general, we have it. If we don't have it, we can get it. I always like to add new inventory into our rental, because it's just how you expand. And
absolutely.
So at one point in time, I had and getting back to that one photo off of our website there. I owned almost close to 200 guitars, basses, and acoustics all together bundled up.
That's 100 times the number I own.
So since then, I kind of, as I've gotten older, I've cut back and kind of dropped some of the older, like, I don't want to say crap, because I think it's all pretty cool, but you're less expensive type of guitars or what have you. But the passion, I've always been very passionate. Being of mostly Italian and Sicilian origin, I've always been very, very partial to anything Italian, and I love the way that Italian things were completely over-engineered, just for the sake of doing it. And that photo is my Italian collection. The guitars of the '60s. In a pretty Steel City Vintage loves to specialize in that. Like we like to call them orphan guitars, much like the orphan cars.
The brands that are no longer they don't exist anymore.
You've got an Italian company here, Eco. This guitar was made in the '60s, and the thing that you see with a lot of these companies, you've got all mother of pearl and push buttons and multiple pickups and everything that. You had accordion factories in Italy. They were making accordions, and then the Beatles came out, and everybody wanted to buy an electric guitar, and nobody wanted to play the accordion anymore. So you got all these factories with all these extra parts, and so what do? And Giuseppe, we got to make guitars now because that's what everybody's buying. What do we do? So you got some, just slap some of those accordion push buttons here and there.
Who knows what that'll do?
So you got some pretty funky looking stuff.
So that brings up the follow-up question. That is, orphan stuff is also very difficult to acquire parts for repairs. Often you have to either find a damaged one that is being parted out, or have new parts manufactured if it's not possible.
I say this, thank God for the internet, and there are the vintage guitar community, whether it's a Gibson or a Fender, or it's a Hofner or a Japanese like Taisco from the '60s, or an Echo. The communities. There are lots of guys and women, men and women, that are just absolutely as enthralled and enthusiastic about bringing these things back to life as I am. So through networking, it's not easy, but you can occasionally find those weird, rare missing parts. Sometimes I'm going to Europe. I'm calling up friends in like Switzerland or Finland or Italy, and we're shipping stuff over or back and forth.
So this is the other element of what you guys do, is some of that antique repair.
That is correct.
And so I did have that other video
the
here.
Phoenix.
Yeah. So this is a 1976 Gibson Les Paul that you
that is correct.
Brought out of. The reason why it's called the Phoenix is it was in a house fire.
It wasn't a house fire. A client, a very good client of ours, said, we've got this guitar. We don't know if it's salvageable. It would have been in a house fire. The house had almost completely burnt down. It was in its case underneath the bed. There were beams that had fallen on top of the mattress, and the room had been burnt. It was, the fact that it survived in that condition, as you see, as we're opening up the case there right now,
that's remarkable considering what you just described.
It really, really is. Now you can see there the binding is naturally, because it's a '76, the binding is going to start to yellow a little bit.
Right.
The smoke didn't help all that much, and being in the high heat and the humidity with the water, there was mold inside the case. The neck was the biggest issue.
Sure.
It needed a lot of love on the neck. I tried to adjust the truss rod as best I could to kind of get the bow out of it, and that truss rod was all the way down. She was not moving anymore. So drastic times call for drastic measures.
Sure.
So what we ended up having to do then was take it off, take it, put it on the workbench, strap it down, throw a heat blanket around the neck, and keep the heat.
And let Mother Nature do its thing
Yeah,
at that point in time.
Completely back off the truss rod so it was nice and loose, and just try and, with some clamps and some heat and some clamps and some heat, try and get it, back to where we could get it. And you can see a lot of the corrosion on the inside there. There's those funky little dendrites, as we like to call them.
What I love about the video is it's a 26-minute video where it's in multiple phases. Some of it is, and then here it is. I'm kind of speeding towards the end. Is so that you can see what it looks like at the end. But it's worth a watch because it goes through such a fun transformation, and you narrate a bunch of parts of it. Then there's other parts that are time lapsed, and it's a beautiful, beautiful guitar. So it's one of those things.
Blood color is just awesome,
right?
In '76, I believe that was the first year that Gibson started producing those wine red color. Then it's a pretty neat guitar in and of itself because it's a Les Paul custom, but from that Norlin era, the '70s, which I know there are guys out there that absolutely hate them and they want to bash the Norlin era guitars, but I mean, it's a Les Paul, it's a Gibson. It may not have been built completely like the '50s used to be, or like your modern ones do now, but it's a solid player. And but the interesting about that is most of your customs, they had gold hardware, where that one came with the chrome hardware, and going back and looking through, it was all completely original. And at that time, the quality control with Norlin wasn't really there. So you find a couple of guitars where they call them custom standards or standards customs. You would have flip-flop. You'd have a standard without the extra binding all around the headstock and everything else that may have some gold hardware on them. Or like that one where you have one that kind of snuck out the factory with the silver hardware on it.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in '76, so that was one of those, when it came into the shop, I was kind of like thinking, well, if I can't salvage it, maybe I'll just see if they want to just get rid of it, and I'll keep it as a wall hanger for myself. But I was able to. It took several weeks to get the neck back to playable. The owner didn't want to go crazy and do like a full peel off the bridge or the fretboard and then try and go full surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wanted to do as minimal surgery as possible. So after a couple of weeks with the blanket and some calls and some clamps here and there, it's playable. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed playing it. I'm hopefully that they are enjoying playing it. It was actually, it ended up being a present for the client's son. And then on top of the guitar, then they decided to have me build a matching guitar stand, sort of like that one, which is one of that. Actually, I believe was almost exactly like that one because I had built.
Got it.
And then it got sold again.
Yeah.
So that seems to be mine. I can't keep them, but that's okay. Keep on buying them.
That's right. Yeah. So the other kind of lesson learned there is that if anybody does have something that needs repairing, that is another element of what you guys offer.
That is yep. The stained glass really kind of came out of the pandemic, basically. Union stagehand and a backline company, and nobody was touring and nobody was putting on shows. Our warehouse, our shop is off of Airport Road over in Allentown.
Nice.
And it's a big warehouse that has a lot of nice, pretty cool gear in it, and it was just sitting there empty, or just sitting there unused, collecting dust. And so we needed to do something to generate some extra cash flow. And the guitar stands, those first couple, that limited series of stained glass ones that I made, a lot of people were asking, hey, can you make a couple more like that? And that slowly evolved into that. And then we kind of expanded into making these stars Bethlehem and to try
SOBs.
Are those SOBs? Just to try and keep the doors open and the lights on and pay the rent and keep, just to try and stay busy. And as luck would have it, here we are now, and we're in the middle of the pandemic, and one of the other things that I'd love to do aside from restoring vintage gear is restore vintage motorcycles, and of course ride them, obviously. And so I was riding around because there's not much to do in the middle of a pandemic when everybody's all in lockdown. And July 15th, 2020.
I have a picture of this.
I was going to say, I think I knew that this was definitely going to come up. So I was, there you have it. I was driving one of my motorcycles down South 4th Street in Allentown, and 80-some-year-old woman was a little too impatient and didn't want to wait to pull out of the grocery store much longer, cut across 2 lanes of traffic. And as you can see, the end result was my motorcycle didn't stop fast enough. Mm-hmm. And it was a little painful. Mm. I ended up bruising and cracking some ribs, some road rash. Always wear your gear, mm-hmm. dress for the slide, not for the ride. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, even with gear on, I still ended up with some road rash on my arms, my elbows, the bruising on my ribs. You see the in the photo there that
the dent,
that big dent, that is from my rib cage. She went this way, she caught me and flipped the bike into the side. It threw me. I rolled down her hood, and it shattered my left hand. My left hand just almost instantaneously was swollen to 2 times the size.
And that's
that
why
it
we
was.
saw the brace in
And
the prior.
But that's a good bit afterwards.
That is a good. I was in a cast for 42 weeks.
Wow.
Had to go through intense physical therapy. Had to wear a electronic device on my hand that would actually stimulate the growth of the bone to fuse back together.
Holy smokes.
It was like an hour a day for, I think that was almost 3 months as well. It was, and then my love of playing guitar and bass, it was close to driving me to a point of depression where I couldn't do the things that I could do.
Right.
Just trying to build some guitar stands or stained glass. It was very, very rough. I was telling you, jokingly with my wife, as she then stepped up. Thank God, wonderful woman. Been married for forever, 20 some years now, almost 25, I think, going on close to that. And she at first I was the one that I would do all the work on the stands, the upholstery and everything. And great woman, wonderful woman, puts up with all of my bullshit. Has not killed me in my sleep yet. And she said, well, I'll let me help you. And she assisted me with a lot of, she helps out with a lot of the color picking and the materials and everything, but she jumped in, she started doing all the upholstery, which it kind of hard to pull fabrics with 2 hands and do it well, let alone when you only have 1 hand. And actually I'll give her the shout out, since she started, the upholstery has looked so much better. It definitely has. So, and it's a family business. It's always been a family business. She helps out when we can. Because I'm a rock and roll daddy, and God has a sick, twisted sense of humor. I have 2 very beautiful, very, very intelligent daughters, and no sons. And both of those girls are definitely kick-ass type of girls. They will not pull any punches or take any crap from anybody. My oldest is going to the Charter Arts. She wants to follow in the footsteps of daddy. I don't know why. I tried to warn her and do something, even just become a janitor or something else other than this. But God love her, she wants to do it, and she's involved with the company now too. There are several times where if I'm out on a gig, and I get a phone call, we need this emergency. This amp just died over at this place. Well, I'm on this site, so I'll call up the missus and say, hey, I need you to. This is what you need to. We need to grab this, and I'll get the. Well, don't tell me. Just text our daughter Evelyn. Text Evie and let her. She knows what to grab, and I'll send her the text. This is what Daddy needs, and. Bada boom, bada bing. She runs over to the shop. She knows right where everything is. She pulls it all out. And from what I hear now, I guess she might be teaching some classes every once in a while over the Charter Art School. But I don't know about it. So,
and just for the record, that's 2 bada boom, bada bings in this episode, which is definitely a record for us. I was just hoping it didn't go to 1,200 degrees with your story. kudos to you for working back through that and clearly getting most, if not all, of the function back.
About 70%. With flexibility, the biggest thing is everybody can do this. You can touch your all of your fingers to your thumb, and I can do that with 4 of them, and I still can't quite get
4.5
over there. But
right.
In playing more, that's the one thing that I've been able to do now, which is making me my soul feel better now. I can get back to playing this, because I started out as part of the physical therapy process of just simply just trying to warm up and do some scales, and now I've been able to play for. I think we're getting up to about 15. I think I can play about 3 songs. Not very well, but I never really could play well anyway. That's why I tune the guitars and fix them. I'm not the guy out there on the stage playing to the audience. Enough to be dangerous. That's my motto. Right?
Yep. So we did have one each little trivia about each of you. We wanted to confirm whether these were accurate or not.
Okay.
You found the one about Paco, about
at the State Theater.
Yeah.
So
is this true?
So this would have been early 2000. You were working there, and you saved somebody with an AED device.
That is correct. Yeah.
And it wasn't the first time.
No, it wasn't. So I mean, I'm from Bloomsburg, the only town in Pennsylvania. We like to say that. Everything else is a borough or a village or a city. And growing up, my father was a volunteer firefighter. My grandfather was a volunteer firefighter. So at a young age, I joined the Explorer program, and I became a junior volunteer firefighter. And then eventually, when I turned 18, I started taking some of the courses. So I'm still actually up to. Well, I don't think it's firefighter 3. I don't think it's called firefighter 3 in Pennsylvania anymore. But I've pretty much had taken all the classes that you would almost take out of the fire academy itself and so the very first one, which you may or may not have, depending on how far back you dug, was probably early 1990s, where there was where I grew up. I grew up on the outskirts of Bloomsburg, because Bloomsburg isn't the sticks enough. I grew up on the outskirts of the sticks, and there were nothing but cornfields and more cornfields. And there was a car accident where my parents' house is. There's a bend, and everybody doesn't really see the bend. They want to keep on going straight, and lots of accidents. And that was probably the first one that happened. I was, I don't know, sitting in my bedroom playing Nintendo when I heard the bang, and I saw this car flying and caught on fire and burst into flames. And I'm more gut reaction than think, usually all the time. So I ended up saving those 2 guys in that car, putting the carring out, and then I started working at the State Theater pretty much out of college. I was the lighting designer for the State Theater for many years. Bit of trivia: I am the original lighting designer for the Freddies. At the State Theater.
That's fun.
Designed for the first three Freddie Awards.
My son has been on the
Freddies. Cool. Yeah, I also worked at the State Theater, but I didn't have.
So yeah,
nearly the success.
It's funny because a benefactor had just donated an AED. It was right when they'd come out early 2000s, and had just donated one to the theater. And I
think it was 2002 or 2003.
Is that correct?
There? Yeah, that's what I remember reading.
I was working there too, but I didn't save anybody.
I just worked there.
I always happen to be at the right place or the wrong place.
Depending on the point of view.
I'm not sure, but this one it was.
Well, I hope you're there when it happens to me.
I hope it doesn't.
You're on a roll.
And it was probably like 5 or 10 minutes before House opened. The theater is pretty well packed, and there's a woman. She must have been like front center, like 3 rows away from the stage. And we see all this commotion going on, and somebody yells out that she's having a heart attack. Myself and the audio engineer that was next to me, like, again, without really thinking much about it, just grabbed the AED and went down there, and boom, went through all the training. Bada bing, bada boom. Zapped her a couple times. Unfortunate, not so happy ending to that story. When she left the theater, they had I think it was more of a biorhythm than an actual heartbeat. But she unfortunately did not make it. Made it to the hospital, but I guess shortly after that, older woman, late 80s, early 90s, I believe. And then, just to add insult shortly after that, I think that was like a Friday or a Saturday. Over the weekend, then I'm starting to feel ill. I've got like the flu that I've never so bad. I've never had the flu this bad. And I call up my boss at the theater and I said, "Hey man, I can't come in for this crew day. I'm really sorry. I feel like crap. I've got a fever, chills, and the whole 9 yards." And there's a pause for a second, and he says, "Oh yeah. We just found out about the woman that had passed away. You definitely want to get yourself to the hospital real quick, man. You definitely want to get yourself to the hospital right now. Go right now. Don't worry about it." Click. I'm freaking out. Like, what did this woman die from? What am I about to die? What's going on? And so I'm like, crap, gathering up my stuff, getting ready to take my behind over to the ER. And the phone rings back again. And someone like, what? And there's pure laughter. Pure laughter. Like I can actually see the tears coming out of the receiver of the phone. He's laughing so hard. He's like, "No, man, I'm just messing with you."
You can literally see the high five happening on the other side.
I'm just messing with you. You probably have the flu, so you definitely want to go to the doctor, but I'm just messing with you. I don't think it's gonna die. I'm like, you son of a...
Yeah, that's like a top 10 all-time prank.
Well, it's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, that's solid.
Yeah. He got me. He got me good. I gotta own it.
Well, thank you for being a hero. I mean, don't wear capes.
Right place at the right time. I'm not.
Yeah, but still, that reaction
to me
right away doesn't happen in everyone. Like, so that's amazing, and thank you for sharing those stories.
Yeah, I can't imagine what.
I should have started with more.
Because I've never done anything around like.
Oh yeah.
So this one,
sorry, just stole all that thunder.
This one I just thought was interesting. Again, cool trivia. Hopefully it's true. I love when I do this without asking ahead of time. They might be like, nope, not true. That you were on The Amazing Race or a part of it.
Oh yeah. How'd you find that?
Deep cuts here.
Right, that's right. We pride ourselves on that. Yeah.
I worked on it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like,
we have your
maybe
mom
you
on the
decorated
phone.
room. Here's your 4th grade graduate.
So I worked on The Amazing Race. It was like the 2nd or 3rd season. They were coming through Pennsylvania, and I was hired as the local props master for that portion of the show. So,
which was the best portion.
I think it was only one episode. Maybe it was 2, but right. But yeah. So, it was actually ended up being a really cool job. There was one portion of it was one of the challenges was they had to row across the Delaware at Washington's Crossing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to take these, like, they had bought a couple fiberglass dinghies and were like, make it look old.
Yeah.
I was like, you can't.
How far away are you shooting this from?
Can we CGI this?
Throw some mud on it.
But I'll paint it brown and put some wood grain on it or whatever, but it's still going to look like fiberglass. But so we did that. I set that up, and then I had to go to the next location and get that prep. So I had to race faster than the racers.
This should have been a whole other show. Like, watch the prop master.
Yeah, The Amazing Race.
Right. Race with The Amazing Race.
So they eventually made it to Lancaster County, and the challenge there was they had to either pull an Amish buggy for, I don't know, a certain distance, or assemble a mill house kit, right? So I had spent the week prior to that working in an Amish wood shop with this Amish family that built the mill houses because they weighed too much, and what they wanted, it was the year that it was the family teams. So they said, we need for 2 teenagers to be able to lift these pieces over their head.
Sure.
So you have to put the roof on it, you got to lift it over your head. So I worked with them to cut the weight of these very sturdy functional mill houses down to half the weight of what they originally were.
I'm just laughing that this should have been a whole separate show. You and some Amish family just hanging out at dinner talking about how you're going to tackle that problem.
They did not invite me to dinner. It's like the end of the workday, they'd be like,
and peace.
There goes the sun. Yeah. We'll see you when that comes back.
So it was cool because, like, it was just communicating with they're very skilled carpenters, and
Yeah.
I'm a theater carpenter,
Right.
which is
No.
You make it
yeah.
you make it look like it can
What does
handle
that
that
be
much weight.
weatherproof?
Right.
Look, I need it to just work for a weekend.
Yeah, it needs to work it needs to look good from 20 feet away,
Right.
and
And it will
Right,
be lit
right,
with
right.
red lights as
Yeah.
well, so it will have other things that it has to worry about.
so we cut everything down from 2x4s to 1x, and then any or they didn't have plywood, but they had shingles. They had cedar shingles. They were pretty thick, and there were a lot of them. I said, first of all, we got to reduce it from like 20 rows of shingles to like 5 rows of shingles, and it was still too heavy. So it was like, all right, we're going to replace the cedar with Luan. And these guys are like, "What's Luan?" It's like it's 1/4-inch ply. They're like, "Why would you ever need that for anything?"
Right.
And it was a pretty cool experience. It was and the whole time they're like, "This doesn't make any sense." It's like it's not supposed to.
That makes sense. It's supposed to look good.
So so that was
You guys don't have television. Most of that doesn't make sense. So this is.
But yeah, so that was cool. Yeah, that was a long time ago that I worked on The Amazing Race.
Another great story. I'm just
It's
picturing.
probably like 15, 20, no, like probably close. Yeah, between 15 and 20 years ago. It's funny. I hadn't thought about that one in a while. And I still can't figure out how you know that.
Phil read the credits on every
Yeah,
single.
I followed yours.
Cool.
But yeah, so time to promote things. Do you want to promote like whatever you said? This is available through March 11th.
Yeah, so our current show is the winter show, and the artists featured are Marie Jean Haba, who is originally from Guinea, and she lives here. So she was raised in West Africa, and she is in the Lehigh Valley. She has a studio in the Banana Factory.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hazem Akil, who's one of those few artists that we have that is not local or regional. He's an artist in Beirut.
Interesting.
And we show his work periodically.
Sure.
And then Roy Groover and Rhonda Snowert, who are both fused glass artists that they live and work together in Bethlehem and Maine, and they teach glass classes. And Roy Groover was actually my glass teacher when I first learned to fuse glass.
That must be super cool to bring stuff back around
Yeah,
like that.
it's a lot of fun. And then Kathy Begg, who is another great artist in Bucks County, and Justin Long, who is also a Bucks County artist. The artist featured in this show will be up until March 11th, and we'll close to reinstall the exhibit.
Sure.
And reopen March 31st with our spring show. So
got it.
So we'll start promoting that one.
Yeah.
Shortly.
So again, for those of you who may have been in here during the winter, then come back and buy something.
Yeah, please do.
And then, if nothing else, if you're like, nope, saw that after the 31st of March, it'll be all different.
Yep.
We went to the Visit Historic Bethlehem site here. This does a good job of talking about address, hours, the social media, different ways to kind of get in touch. Mm-hmm. So this is like the front door. And again, it's just always so nice and welcoming, regardless of season. But, and you mentioned too, those are the featured artists. There's also the house artists,
yes,
like Paco. And these are not from this current exhibit, but this gives you a good sense of the different rooms on the website here. And you can kind of peek at some of there was one down here that actually had the guitar stands right in it. I'm going to pull that up real quick. Mm-hmm. Here it is.
Yeah, there's
kind of like a rock and roll room right there.
So that was
this summer.
Yeah, it was the summer show, and the artist, the featured artist in that was Jeff Schaller, who's a Downingtown artist. And then there's Steel City Vintage gear all over the place.
Sure.
So
this one's right behind us right now.
Yes. Yeah. So we had
we have our jam chair there. That was recycled theater chairs from one of the old, I think of the Globe, maybe one of the old theaters around here.
And then I thought I saw, but yeah. So here, this was the mirror, I believe.
Oh, look at that! That is the mirror.
There it is. You
wow.
found it.
Yeah, there you have it.
So, and then
and I think that is the one of the video in the video that you showed previously.
And if you scroll up,
and this thing,
that head,
pretty cool.
And then if you go back to the main page and scroll up a little more until you see, I believe it's an orange room. Actually, There, right there.
This one.
So Black Room, I guess. That's orange now.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are some of my paintings.
Oh,
I
very
paint
cool.
on glass. I paint on the reverse side.
I saw that.
Glass, yeah.
Like I read this article where it's his preferred medium is reverse on glass, and I'm like, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
And then I watched something where you did it, and it's fascinating to watch happen too. Like
Thanks.
I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
on
anyway,
my
gorgeous work there.
on my Instagram and Facebook, Ward Van Hout, I don't have to have any fancy handle because nobody else has my name.
That's right. Yeah.
But if you look up Ward Van Hout on Instagram, I've got some time lapses of me doing
That must have
some
been where I
reverse
saw it.
painting.
Yeah.
And so Ward Van Hout on Instagram, Ward Van Hout Art on Facebook, and then Bethlehem House Gallery on Facebook and B House Gallery on Instagram is where you'll see our.
Yeah.
We're pretty active, especially the gallery.
Mhm.
Me as an artist, I'm active sometimes.
And we'll link to all of that in the show notes if
Great,
anybody
thank
is
you.
interested in that. And Matthew, Paco, Calleri, what can we help promote for you?
Well, I mean, obviously, come here and buy some of the cool art that's here. Check out our website. We can always keep following us on the Facebooks or the Instagrams as well. Steel City Vintage LLC, I believe, is how we are on Facebook and Instagram.
We can find out.
I
But
always
anything
forget.
else coming up as far as shows, promotions, backline work? Are you going to do Music Fest again?
Oh, absolutely. But I'm actually meeting up. I have a client meeting on Wednesday to.
It is Steel City Vintage LLC.
There we go. Yeah. I have a meeting this Wednesday to discuss Music Fest, or I guess it's with the Wooden Match.
Nice.
And Match Fest.
Mhm.
The past couple of years, Steel City Vintage has done their stage there in their parking lot.
Very cool.
Very, very good friends with all of the people over there. Love the bar, love the place.
Match plots.
Yes. So we got together and they decided they wanted to do something a little grandiose, if you will. So for the past 2 years, since backup, since the pandemic, we've been responsible for match plots, the stage, the lighting, the backline this past year as well. There was some free backline that they were using. So yeah, Music Fest is coming up.
Yeah.
A lot of different things are coming up here.
Mhm.
You'll be able to see us everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, April and May is when stuff starts to get announced, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, and if you have an amp and you need some repairs, or
That's right.
you have a collection that you might even want to get rid of,
Or start.
Yeah, start or
Art collection, guitar collection.
We're always
collection. Yeah,
always
right.
buying, selling, or trading.
They can set you up. Bada bing, bada
Yeah,
boom. Paco, Ward, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
And can't wait to check out some more art and some more music and stuff. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
guys.
Thanks for the
Absolutely.
opportunity, guys.
Our pleasure. Our
David?
pleasure.
Phillip,
Steel City Vintage, rock and roll art.
club sandwich of episodes.
And now I'm hungry.
All right, Phil, let's say goodbye to everybody.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of our next favorite band, artist, gallery, all of the above. And would like to sincerely thank Ward Van Hout and Bethlehem House Gallery for letting us set up shop here and broadcast from it. And of course, Matthew Paco Calleri of Steel City Vintage for joining us today, sharing all of his various offerings from art, custom art, backline effort, rental of equipment, and repair of obviously new, but also most importantly, vintage equipment, since that would be such a difficult thing to find. There'll be, like we talked about, links for all of this in the show notes in case there's anything that you would like to take more advantage of. But probably the biggest ask that we all have here at this table would be that you stop into the Bethlehem House Gallery and take a stroll around and just get to know more about the different art and artists that are available here in the Lehigh Valley. As always, we hope to bring you your next favorite band or these types of episodes where it's somewhat music adjacent. I hope you're enjoying all of that, and we hope that you like and subscribe and follow and give us suggestions on what you want to see and feedback on what you're hearing. But ultimately, we hope we get to see a live show soon.
over now.